Hello and welcome to MTTV's In the Kitchen with David Bradley. Today we're going to be making some pecan pie tartlets to start off the show. The show today is going to be mainly about appetizers. Pecan pie tartlets is one thing that you definitely want as an appetizer at your party. So to get started, and this is a really easy recipe, if you can just put a few things together and stir it up, put it in a tin and throw it in the oven, you can do anything. So this is really easy. So the first thing we're going to start with is a half a cup of dark corn syrup. Okay. And of course to that we're going to add 2 eggs. And these eggs I got locally from Eddie and Sherry Granger. They're our neighbors, and I love using local ingredients whenever we can. So I'm just going to stir that up really quickly just to kind of get it combined with the corn syrup. All right, and to that we're going to add half a cup of sugar, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of salt. Salt will bring out the flavor. And then we're also going to add half a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Now I'm going to tell you right now, you can go to the grocery store here and buy pure vanilla extract. But I'm here to tell you, if you only paid $3, $4, $5 for vanilla extract, you're not getting great vanilla extract. Spend you about a $20 bill and get you some good vanilla extract, and I promise you, you'll love every taste of it. It is so much more better. This is Madagascar bourbon vanilla extract, and it is absolutely wonderful. So what we're going to do now is we're going to stir everything together. And this right here is going to be our filling for our pecan pie tartlets. And I'm using a whisk here just to make sure we get everything well combined. All right. I think we're good there. So what we're going to do right now is we're just going to set this aside. Now, we're going to use just a regular muffin tin. This is a 12 cup muffin tin, and you should always spray your muffin tin, even though this is non-stick. We're going to be putting dough and then of course a lot of ooey gooey stickiness in it, and we definitely want to be able to get it out when we get done. So go over to your sink, we don't want to do this over the floor, and just lightly spray each cup of your muffin tin. All right. And now we're just going to set that aside for now. So what we're going to do now is I have some refrigerated pie crust, and this is going to be our crust that we use for our tartlets. And we're going to just unroll our crust here on the board. Okay, and then we want to use a 4-inch cutter. Now each of these crusts you can get 4 circles, dough circles out of your crust, and then you can actually rework each crust and get 2 more. For time purposes today, we're going to go ahead and just use a 3rd crust instead of reworking the dough. But if you wanted to rework your dough, that's perfectly fine. You can get 2 more dough circles out of this. take out our other pie crust here. And we'll unroll it. And this is something you don't have to worry about being completely, totally accurate, because it's all going to turn out. You're going to have more than enough dough for your dough circles here. And open up our last one here to get our 2 additional circles. The idea to do this actually came to me because I love pecan pie, and one of the best pecan pies I ever ate in my life actually was made here locally by Stania Franklin, and I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning her name. She has the best pecan pie recipe that I've ever seen and ever tasted. So when I got to thinking about portability, though, and having enough pieces for everyone and how you could eat it simply, I thought of this recipe, and I thought, how awesome would it be to just make something small like a finger food, and you can serve it as an hors d'oeuvre at a party. So now we're going to put our dough into our muffin tin. Okay, now we're back and we're going to put our dough circles into our muffin tin, and basically you just kind of work it in. Sometimes dough isn't that forgiving, so don't press it in, just kind of work it in. And these will make really nice cups. As you work it in, you may have to unfold and rework. That's okay. It just takes just a little bit. And using refrigerated dough is just so much easier. Now, if you have a good dough recipe that you'd like to use, by all means use it. Just roll it out. Still, you do everything the same. Just use your 4-inch cutter to make your dough circles, and it will be absolutely wonderful. And people absolutely love these at parties. And this is good any time of year. And of course, we're celebrating the holidays right now. We've got Christmas and New Year's coming up. But these are good any time of year because no one will turn down a good pecan pie ever. And these are so good, and they look so great. If you put it on a serving tray, people gravitate right to them. Of course, these are good as hors d'oeuvres. These can easily be served as desserts. You can put two or three of these in a bowl, fresh out of the oven. Put you a big scoop of vanilla ice cream on there. Maybe top with a little bit of caramel. Tongue slap your brains out. All right. So we're getting ready to put in the last dough here. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put, I usually put 5 pecan halves into each dough circle. Obviously, you can put as many as you want, and I'm just going to, I usually stick with 5 because that way you get a pretty good sum of pecans. And then once we pour our syrup mixture into it, it's really going to come alive. So we'll go ahead and we'll continue to put the pecans in our muffin tin, and then we're going to start dipping our syrup mixture over the pecans. All right, now we're just putting the last of the pecans in, and now we're going to just re-stir our syrup mixture here. And you can tell, of course it bubbled up a little bit, but you can tell when you stir it back up how nice and caramely looking it looks. I know caramely is not a word, but it doesn't matter when it comes to food. You can call it anything you want to. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take, and I've just got a tablespoon measure, and we're going to take 2 tablespoons, and this right here is the longest part of the process. And I'm going to just kind of lift this tin up here, and we're going to pour 2 tablespoons exactly of our mixture here into each of the muffin tins. And as you can see, it covers that up pretty nicely. It just takes just a little bit. And what we'll do before we actually put these in the oven is we'll kind of just take a little cloth and we'll dab around where I'm kind of spilling this on the pan here. Got to do a little housekeeping every now and then as you're making food. I tell you, I said that expression a while ago, tongue slap your brains out. My grandmother, Thelma Bradley, that was her, probably her trademark saying. And I'm telling you, everything she made, literally, I mean, your tongue would slap your brains out. She was a wonderful cook, wonderful grandmother. She was my, what I called definitely a traditional grandmother. We'd go there after school and she'd always have us some treats ready for us. And then after we'd eat a little snack, she'd send us in there to my grandfather, which we called Pappy. And she'd tell us to ask him for a piece of stick candy. He was the stingiest thing ever lived, and he'd get so mad when we'd go in there and ask him. And she'd be standing there in the doorway. You give them some stick candy. It was just so funny. He did it, I think, just to aggravate her. But it's just wonderful memories. So we're going to keep on continuing to put our mixture into our muffin tin. And as you can see, this is kind of what it looks like here. And once we get this done, we'll be ready for the oven. All right, we've finished filling all the syrup mixture into the pecans, and I've cleaned the pan up where I got a little bit messy. And now this is ready to go in a 375-degree preheated oven for 25 minutes, or until the filling is set and the crust is golden brown. All right. And the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to make some sausage cheddar balls, the perfect treat for any party. All right, now we're going to make some sausage cheddar balls. These are so good, and the reason they're so good is we actually use fresh cheddar and we hand grate it ourselves. And that right there is the most important thing. If you use anything that uses cheese, please do not go to the store and buy the processed shredded cheese. It is awful. I mean, and yeah, it'll do well in recipes, but I'm telling you, if you put a little elbow grease and slice and dice or whatever, shred some fresh cheddar cheese or any type of cheese, I promise you it'll make your dish even cheesier, and it'll just taste so much better. So the first thing we're going to do is I have got a pound of sage sausage. Now you can use any sausage that you like, but we've got a pound of sage sausage here that I'm going to use today. And I'm just going to put that in the mixer and get that out of the way. The next thing we're going to do here is we're going to use our box grater, and we're going to shred our cheddar cheese. And yeah, you got to put in a little elbow grease, but I promise you, the outcome will be worth all the effort. These a lot of people use the cheddar or the sausage cheddar balls during this time of year. It's a really easy recipe. Basically, you just combine a few things, and I'm actually making this a little bit easier on me because you can actually combine this using your hands. And actually, when these recipes are posted on the Mountain Telephone website and Facebook page, I even have the option that you can actually work this recipe together by hand. But our mixer here makes life a little bit more easier, and if you're young, by all means use your hands. If you're getting old and decrepit like I am, you need all the help you can get. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep shredding our cheddar here, and as soon as we get both these blocks done, then we'll be ready to put it into the mixer. All right, I've just got this last block of cheese just now shredded. Please, please, please be careful when you use a box grater. You definitely don't want your thumbs or anything else grated. All right, that's about good right there. So go ahead, we've got our big mound of cheese here. Now tell me that looks better than that old processed shredded cheese you buy in the bag at the store. All right, but before we move on, we actually have our pecan pie tartlets are ready to come out of the oven. So we're going to go ahead and take them out here in just a moment. We've got our timer here, and I definitely don't want it going off while we're trying to get it off. All right. All right. Oh, these look so good. Now this right here is exactly what it looks like. We'll set that there, and we'll get them out and get them to cooling. And then we'll get started back with our sausage cheddar ball recipe. Now we have those beautiful pecan pie tartlets sitting there cooling. We're going to let them cool for about 5 minutes, and then we'll take them out, put them on a cooling rack, and just allow them to cool for about a half hour before we eat them. So now we're getting right on back to our cheddar cheese here, and as you can see, that just looks so good. And we're going to put that into our mixer with our sage sausage. Get that in there, and you will find that by using the fresh cheese, the fresh block cheese, and shredding it yourself, that your dishes will be even a little bit cheesier and a whole lot better. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and we'll get our parsley. This is Italian flat leaf parsley, and we want probably a couple tablespoons. I believe this will be just fine. And the good thing about this recipe is it doesn't have to be perfect. If you want to put in 3 tablespoons, or if you just grab a bunch and chop it up and throw it in there, who's going to say anything? It's going to be perfect. The flat leaf parsley you can find in any grocery store, even locally. You know, even though we're not a big city, we're getting a lot of fresh ingredients now. You definitely want to use fresh parsley, and I like using fresh herbs just in general whenever you can get them. We actually have some local growers here that grow them, and you can buy them usually during the summer and the fall, at the farmer's market. So you definitely want to check that out. Otherwise, they have a lot of organic herbs at these grocery stores, especially right here in town, and they are wonderful. A lot of times, your fresh herbs, they have a more intense flavor than those that's been like freeze dried, stuff that you can buy in the can or whatever on the grocery shelf, and it just makes the whole dish taste so much fresher. So we're going to put our parsley in there. Recipe calls for 2 tablespoons. I probably got more like 3, but that's all right, no big deal. All right, now to that we're going to add 3 cups of all-purpose baking mix. You can use Bisquick is probably the most popular, but if you want to make your own at home, and a lot of people do, you can do that. But we're just going to use 3 cups here. And I always try to measure off with my hand, make sure we got exactly a cup. All right, and now we're going to pour in a 1/2 cup of milk. Now, once this mixes up, if you feel like it needs a little bit more milk, if it seems kind of dry, that's okay. You can add up to another 1/2 cup of milk and it'll be just fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn our mixer on. We'll start it off slow until that flour gets worked in, and then we'll turn it up to medium. We'll try not to let it grow and get all over the counter. All right, we're going to stop it. It can take just a moment there, and you can see how well combined that mixture is. So I'm just going to use my hands here. Got to get a little dirty when you're in the kitchen. And kind of get that off our beater here. And then here in a moment we're going to scoop this out onto a sheet pan, and then we're going to bake these in a preheated oven to 350 for about 30 minutes until they're golden brown. All right. We've got our pecan pie tartlets, so we're going to take a break from our sausage cheddar balls, and we're going to go ahead and get these out. And we've allowed this to cool for a little bit, so it's easy to handle. Just use a spoon. Now, where we use the non-stick cooking spray, these should come out fairly easy, but just use a spoon to kind of lift them out. These are going really well, so I'm just gonna, that non-stick cooking spray is definitely the trick, because you definitely don't want to be without it. Set this right here. Got one here. That film comes out. Sometimes they get a little rough to get out, but that's why we use this little spoon, and we can kind of work it out. As you can see, most of them just lifting right out. And we're going to allow these to cool for about a half hour. If you can't wait a half hour, wait 5 minutes. And but for hors d'oeuvres, if you're serving these as hors d'oeuvres, you don't want people biting into piping hot filling. So definitely allow them to cool for a little bit. But if you're wanting to serve these, if you're home alone, or if you've got just you and your spouse together, and you want to put some ice cream on these and let that ice cream melt from that warm filling, you go right ahead and do it. So I'm going to put this over in our sink, get it out of the way. And now we've got our cheddar and sausage and our filling. It's all ready. It's all well mixed. So you could take the time if you wanted to and get your hands all good and dirty again and roll these into 1-inch balls, and it'll make about 54 of them. Or you can get a little small cookie or ice cream scoop and scoop them up, or cookie dough scoop, whatever you have. A little small, it'll do the same thing. You don't have to get your hands dirty, and a whole lot less work. So basically, we're going to scoop these on and put them on our pan. Now, typically, I always tell people if they use a sheet pan to use a sheet of parchment paper. Today, we're using a seal pat, and basically this is just a silicone mat. Perfect, absolutely perfect for baking. You can buy these online. You can go to a lot of your kitchen stores and purchase these. We actually have some people here locally that sell Tomorrow at Home products, and because the brand name is Tomorrow, and you can actually buy it locally. You support your local folks. But this is a wonderful mat. I usually just keep a rubber band once I get it cleaned after using it. Just roll it up, throw a rubber band around it, and put it in the cabinet and wait until the next use. These are wonderful, and if you decide to buy any of these, get you 2 or 3 of them, and I promise you, you won't be sorry. So you see how that just comes out just like so. Now if we have a few little loose edges at the end, we'll go back and we'll clean those up. Make sure they look good, because we do want them to look round if at all possible. But for now, this is just really easy. My Aunt Sherry makes these a lot. They are, I remember eating these growing up at church functions, or sometimes at her house when she was having people over for events or holidays or whatever. And they were always so good. And although I'm not using her recipe, a lot of these are made about the same. And I love this one right here. You can see that big chunk of cheddar in it. That one's going to be mine when it comes out of the oven. Everybody here and everybody else here is going to have to fight me over that one. So we're going to continue to dip these out. This mixture will make 54 sausage balls, and you'll have more than enough, and you can easily double this recipe if you wanted to. If you use your mixer, you'll just have to do it in 2 parts, because you can see we had a pretty full bowl on this one. So we'll continue to scoop these sausage balls out, and then they'll be ready for the oven. Now we got all of our sausage balls scooped out, and what I'm doing is I'm just kind of going around making sure we don't have any loose ends here that can come from scooping them out with the little cookie scoop or ice cream scoop, whatever you use. We want them to look as round as we can get them. All right. So now those look pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this in a 350 degree preheated oven for 20 to 25 minutes or until they're golden brown. That cheese and everything be oozing out, be bubbly, be beautiful. So now, got those in the oven, and now we're going to get started on our next recipe. And this one is really special to me. This is a recipe that was made by my dad, Darrell Bradley. He passed away earlier this year, so this makes this recipe even much more special. This was one of his favorite recipes to make at home. And this is something, honestly, that's a good standalone recipe. And what this recipe is smoked sausage and barbecue sauce. Of course, we doctor the barbecue sauce way up. So So what we're going to do is we're going to start out here with 2 cups of light brown sugar. If you have dark brown sugar, that's perfectly fine. Just use whatever you have. And I've already pre-measured it. And I've got 2 in there, 2 lightly packed cups of brown sugar. To that, we're going to add 2 40-ounce bottles of barbecue sauce. Use your favorite barbecue sauce with this. I've used several, but I'm using one that's really popular right now. And but just make sure you use the whole thing up, and excuse the less than wonderful noises here. But that's just life in the kitchen. All right. Done with that. We'll add our next one here. I tell you what, I'd come into the kitchen. If Dad had a pot of these on, I knew that I wasn't going nowhere. Because like I said, we'd eat these just by themselves. Put them in a bowl once they got done. Get you some really good buttery crackers to go with it. And I mean, you have got a meal in a dish. These are also really good as an appetizer, and we'll show you what these look like a little bit later once we get them plated. All right, so we've got that in there. I'm kind of just going to stir this a little bit before we get our heat turned on, just kind of get our sugar and our barbecue sauce combined. And we're going to turn this on medium heat and let it start to get warm. All right. Now to this, we're going to add 2 8-ounce cans of pineapple juice. Another layer of flavor. Just kind of stir that in a little bit. Once the heat comes on, of course, this pineapple juice will kind of break this sauce down to where it's not so thick. And to this, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And I probably didn't say it right, but that's all right. It's really good. I'm going to give it another layer of flavor. And another thing we're going to add is a tablespoon of ground mustard and a tablespoon of onion powder. A lot of times at home, I just kind of eye these and kind of like call myself a dump cook. Dump a little bit of this and that in it. But we'll kind of stir this and get it worked in. And once it starts bubbling up, these spices, the onion powder and the mustard will work right in, and it'll melt plumb into the sauce. All right. So while we're waiting for that to heat up, we're going to get our Polish sausages cut up. Now, you can do these however you want to do them. You can even use the little smokies in this sauce. It's perfectly fine. I prefer to do it this way. This is what Dad always did. And I'm just, to make it easier to cut, just cut the Polish or smoked sausage in half. You can throw out the middle if you plan to use this as an appetizer, or I'm sorry, the end. If you don't like it, but hey, that's got meat on it, I'm throwing it in there. But we're going to cut these into about 1/2-inch pieces. Now, if you want to get real fancy, if you want to cut kind of on a diagonal, you can do that, and I'll kind of show you what that's like. It kind of makes it a little bit longer sausage, as you can see, and it's just fine however you want to cut them. You were having a really nice, if you were having kind of some important company over, you might choose to do it on the diagonal. Otherwise, just cut them however you want to. I usually I aim for a 1/2-inch slice, They're not always perfect, but you know, for it to be good, it don't have to be. So we'll continue to cut these sausages up, and as soon as our sauce mixture gets a little bit warm, we'll go ahead and put these in there, and here in a little bit we're going to have some wonderful food to eat. Now we're going to go ahead and get our sausages put into our sauce. Our sauce, as you can see, it's heated up a little bit. Put that yummy smoked sausage in there. And if you have any residual sauce left over, by all means buy more smoked sausage and put in it, because it's so good. Dad would get these heated up, and then he would eat them. He'd usually pour them out in a little single serving bowl and get some Townhouse or Ritz crackers to eat with them, and they were so good. So we're going to let those cook up for about 15 minutes, and until it's nice and bubbly, and then we'll just kind of let it simmer for another 5 minutes or so, and then these will be ready to eat. So now it's about time for our sausage balls to come out. So we'll go ahead and get those out. I want you to look at that. They're nice and bubbly. Oh yeah. Those are just right. Now we're going to let these cool for about 5 minutes, and then they'll be ready to eat. Getting these sausage and cheddar balls all plated up. And if you'll remember, this is the one I said was mine because it had that big piece of cheddar and it's just melted. But you can see how it's perfectly brown on top. It's ooey gooey and cheesy. We open that up, you can see the parsley and the cheese and the sausage. Just looks so good. You can taste the sage from that sausage, and that is so good. The freshness from that parsley. These are absolutely delicious. I'm getting carried away here. That is so good. So now we're going to take a look at our smoked sausages and our sauce here. You can see it's bubbling up very nicely. These look so good. I'm going to let these simmer here for just another 2 or 3 minutes or so, and these will be ready to eat. So we'll get these plated up for you here in just a moment. Now, as you can see, we've got our smoked sausages all plated here, and what I did is I took a little ladle of sauce and just poured it on my plate here, and then I set the sausages down in it with a toothpick. You can set this on a little buffet or on a table if you're having a little party and people can just come by and grab one. These are so good. And to play a little homage to my dad, I put some nice little decorative crackers out because that's how he would have eaten them. But I'm going to try one of these right now because I've been dying to ever since I plated them. I could easily eat that whole entire plate. You can taste all the underlying flavors, the onion powder, the ground mustard, the richness of the barbecue sauce, the Worcestershire. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. and so good. Of course, the pineapple juice, you have that little hint of fruity taste, but it's so sweet and so good. And it'll pair well with these pecan pie tartlets. As you can see, our crust is just perfect. Absolutely brown. Our center is set just perfectly, and you can see the plump pecans just raising up out of there. That is so good. So good, so tasty. We have our sausage balls right over here. I put a little sprig of flat leaf parsley to kind of just highlight the plate. It is so good. I hope that this is good. I hope that you'll make these easy appetizers a part of your holiday tradition. And even if you don't use these recipes, talk with your family. And that's what makes a lot of these recipes so special, is that they're handed down to us from generation to generation. It can open up a flood of memories, and it definitely will enhance your holiday season. If you'd like to have any of these recipes, please go to our Mountain Telephone Facebook page, and we'll have the links available to you. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you.